Hey Sunshine Nation! So we talked about last week, we talked about, as I was singing for Rachel, the song that I wrote for her when I proposed, that we would talk about our relationship a little bit, about how we met, about how we've gotten to here.
So, it all started when I was 18. I was a crazy freshman and I was so excited to be at school, at college. And I remember seeing this band up on the stage. They were dancing and singing, and I remember this guy up on the stage, and I was like, he is so cute. I was right up against the stage, screaming. The security guards had to pull me back. I went up to him after class, and I said, I have a few questions. Can you answer some questions for me? And
I set up an appointment. I said, that's a great question. We should set up a time that we can get together and talk about it more.
So
that's like probably that's the best move I ever had.
I still remember as I walked up those stairs.
Oh, she looked back. She walked up the stairs and she did one of those like look backs, and I was like, I smiled. She smiled, and I was like, okay, that's gonna be a good appointment.
And I remember where we sat too. I remember it was in the courtyard of the university there, and we chatted, and then he asked me out a date.
Yeah, so for us, we dated for I would say 4 to 6 months.
Yeah, so he started talking to me about marriage a little bit, and I remember him saying, yeah, my dad asked me if you were someone I could marry, and I said, really, what did you say? And he said, I thought I could marry you. And I was 18 at the time, so I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
I think that scared her a little bit.
I remember I was walking to the university. I remember thinking, he is the man you're supposed to marry, but just not yet. And as an 18-year-old, I didn't know what to do with that information. So I called him up and I said, we need to break up.
By phone. She broke up with me by phone. Back then, you couldn't text people. If it was now, she probably would have texted me.
No, I wouldn't have.
She called me by phone.
I did.
And that's not even cell phone. She got on the phone, and called me up.
You say, well, can't we just be friends? I said, no, I love you too much. It'll be too hard. I loved you.
So listen, I was like...
I loved you still. I loved him.
But I said, listen, it's too hard for us to be friends, meaning you can't even see me. I'm like, but it's easier for you to not see me, even because you love me?
I didn't know. I didn't
Try
know
that
how to
one
deal
on
with it.
for your mind. Figure that one out.
Well, I thought if we were like still dating, if we were still friends, we'd still like want to date. So I felt like if he's the one I'm supposed to marry, I just need to go meet other guys for a while until it's time. I didn't know what to do.
So I was...
And then you got a little cold-hearted after that.
Well, so I was a little disturbed that she couldn't figure out a way to see me because she loved me so much. And so I was like, if you don't want to see me, then you won't see me.
And I remember I would see him all over the same building. We had classes in the same building. And he didn't know this, but I knew when his classes were, and I would just kind of walk along the hallways of this big university, like 35,000 people, and I'd peek in the window of his classrooms. I just wanted to take a glimpse of him. I loved him. So
I basically was like, all right, if she doesn't want to see me anymore, then that's it. But then she would call me up. And I was kind of like, okay, like, so are we friends now? Or, like, I think it's confusing for guys sometimes.
And
very much so.
Do you remember someone randomly leaving you an anonymous gift on your door and ringing the doorbell and running?
I'm sorry. What did you leave?
I don't even remember. I think I left.
It's been so many years, you know.
I was 18, so yeah, it was a lot of years ago. Wait, how many years? 21 years ago. I left his favorite lotion. I left like a magazine that he liked. It was probably Sports Illustrated or something with sports.
Wow, that's really nice.
It was really nice, and my roommate helped me.
That's so nice. Thank you very much.
And left it on his doorstep and ran.
I appreciate that.
Just because I wanted to serve you.
I appreciate
See, he never even knew I did it. But I really did love him. And my heart was broken, even though I'm the one who broke up with him. But
I can't see you, but I can give you magazines and candy bars.
Oh, I think it was candy bars too, actually. Yeah, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember that. Lotion, all that. Yeah.
Right, what was the song that I always listen to? It was that Celine Dion song. It was Tony Braxton.
Oh, Tony Braxton.
Break my heart.
Okay. Everybody
like
loves
7
Tony Braxton. If you don't know that song, go back
Okay,
and
so
listen
that
to it.
song, okay, no, there were 2 songs that I always listened to and cry over them in my apartment. Unbreak My Heart by Tony Braxton. That was the one that was 7 minutes long. I would listen to that, and it was a full 7 minutes, and I would just cry. Meanwhile, I was dating lots of guys. Nobody would compare to him. I went on a mission when I was 21, which is probably why it wasn't the right time. I needed to go on a mission, but I went to South America for a year and a half. But I always loved him. I always loved him. Everyone, all my companions knew about this guy named Abe. I had pictures of him with me.
Every time I see her, she would be with a guy. And she would always laugh because I wasn't with a girl.
He wasn't.
I dated, I dated for sure, but I wasn't
dated
with a girl.
a lot.
So she was with
Which
the
I
guy.
probably needed that. I was a young 18-year-old. I needed to.
Yeah. She always make fun of me because she was at the Boyz II Men concert. She was with a guy, and I was with my roommates. So she was always laughing about that. But hey, I went with my roommates on purpose. Yeah, there's a lot of ladies.
You don't go to Boyz II
A lot
Men
of
with other
ladies
guys. You go to Boyz II
concerts.
Men with
Yeah,
a date. And it was Casey and JoJo too singing.
that's right.
Yep.
If you remember those, comment below.
All my life.
Pray for someone like you.
We'll sing it, baby.
I thank God that I finally found you. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna lie. I was with a cute guy, but I looked at Abe and I was like.
She was listening to that song and looking at me. See?
But what are the chances though to be at this huge concert and thousands of people there and we run into each other? He walked right by my seat. But what are the chances,
I was not embarrassed
right?
to say hi to
we
her
kept
while she
running
was on a
into
date
each
with
other.
somebody else.
Then later, I remember I went on a date and this guy asked me on a date and he said, "Oh, I want to take you to this great play." And it was this play in a whole other city, and it happened to be a play that he was in. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Yeah, it was just over and over again. My heart was being stabbed. So we broke up for 5 years. When I came home from my mission, and I saw this article, and it was an alumni magazine from where he went, from BYU, and it was talking about Abe. He was highlighted in the magazine, and I remember looking through it, and I was like, it doesn't say anything about a wife. He must not be married. And then my dad said, whatever happened to that guy Abe? I really did like him.
I actually was talking to a friend of mine, and he asked me, about Rachel specifically. Whatever happened to that girl that you used to date,
So 2 to 3 weeks before we saw each other, the guy was asking him what about that girl Rachel? And 2 to 3 weeks before we saw each other, my dad was asking, what about that guy Abe?
I had graduated, but I was up at the school. There was the cafeteria area.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there talking to somebody, and then Rachel comes strutting in, looking all pretty. Kind of like she is now. She just walked in looking all pretty like. And I was supposed to act cool like, oh yeah, it's good to see you.
I was so excited to see him. I was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing here?
I set up an appointment again. See, I was good. I was good
yeah.
at setting up appointment.
He said, in my mind, I just wanted to tell you sorry for being so cold-hearted after I broke up with him. And I wanted to tell him sorry for breaking up with him so abruptly. And so we were just going to go on this one date to say sorry to each other. And actually, I was dating a guy, and he even said, is there anyone that you ever dated that you really felt like you need to tell him you're sorry? And I was like, this guy, Abe.
So it was lunch. I just said, let's just go to lunch. We'll go get sandwiches, go to the canyon.
He did.
By the nice river flowing in the trees and mountains.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Then he offered to give me a ride to the airport. When we came back, he picked me up from the airport, and we still were not dating. And we were on our way home, and he was like, hey, are you hungry? And I said, yeah, I am. And that man took me to McDonald's drive-thru, and he was like, hey, you got your money? What the heck? He made me pay for my own McDonald's.
Hey, I got just a little bit back for how she broke up with me before, right?
Yeah. Cold-hearted.
All you had to do was pay $2.
Cold-hearted.
I paid for years, okay? Paid for years. Yeah, obviously I was very hurt by the fact that you broke up with me and told me that you couldn't see me again. Obviously.
Did you dream about me for those 5 years? We went on a 4th of July thing. We were walking, and our hands just kind of brushed, and then he grabbed it, and I was like, what's going on?
What happened?
We're just kind of, feeling each other out. It's been 5 years. So I remember I was on a date with another guy, and he called me while I was on the date, and it was a friend of his. Actually, they played football together, and I was on this date, and he called, and I was like, oh, hold on, and I answered the call, and he said, hey, can you come over later? And I said, all right. My roommate and I, we were sitting in my room, and we were writing this list. This other guy that I'd been on the date with that night. I said, they're both really great guys. I was writing down a list, qualities of both of them. And then she said, well, Rachel, who is a better person? Just a general better person, and who would be a better father? And I said, oh, A would be, for sure. And then I stopped, and I looked at her, and I was like, Abe is the one I want. Yeah. And I remember you tried to kiss me, and I thought, if I kiss this guy, he's the one. I'm not going back. I'm not dating anyone else. He's the one. Like we're getting back together, and we're getting married.
But it's kind of like, yeah, I want to jump off that cliff into the water, into like if you want to do a cliff jumping or something. But when you get up there, you're just like, okay, this is a little bit woo, And so marriage to me, it was a little bit like that in terms of making that commitment to go, okay, even though it was something that I wanted, at the same time, and I don't know if you felt like this or not, but it's kind of like one of those things that's kind of like cliff jumping, You get up there and you get butterflies in your stomach and you're like, am I going to be able to do this?
It took him 5 months to propose. He
Jumping
wanted
into
to make
that
sure I wasn't
relationship.
going to break up with you again.
Wanted to make sure, right?
I threw the surprise birthday party for you, and you told me that you were like, wow, she really loves me.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And very sweet.
It was your graduation party at your house in Missouri.
Yeah.
This other guy bought me a plane ticket to go see him and his family in Missouri.
Thank you, other guy.
He told his whole family I was just his friend, and because we'd kind of broken up through the night before we left. I remember I cried all night long. Okay,
I didn't know that she was crying, but I will say this. We went there. She busted out the balloons. She made these balloon animals for all of my cousins, and of course my aunts wanted them too. Everybody went nuts over the balloons. So they were like, you got to marry this girl. She can make balloons. I'm just kidding. But they were all very impressed. And they did comment on how much they liked her.
He was sitting there, and I watched him lay his head on his mom's lap. And I thought, oh, how sweet. That relationship with him and his mom. I just kept confirming it over and over again, even though he hadn't proposed yet. Because after that, we were like firm. It was us.
Her roommates kept giving me all these hints. Like, her ring size is, and it was like all these signs whenever I'd walk into the house.
They totally did. A big poster.
Into their apartment, and I would just be laughing because I'm just like, really, guys? Like, I love her roommates.
Oh, they were amazing. They made a romantic dinner for us, and they served us as our waitresses. So cute.
Still great friends.
Great friends with them. They wanted us to get married so badly. So
Love
they were
them.
Totally helping us.
Anyway, I got a job in Vegas, and I was going down, and we were doing for about 2.5 months. I spent most of my time rehearsing, writing that song that you heard last week, and I'll put a link up here for those of you who haven't heard it.
He did the 12 days of Christmas. He gave me 12 gifts of something, then 11, then 10, then 9, then 8. So the last day, the 12 days of Christmas, was one song. And then he sang, and then he proposed, and he said one ring.
So yeah, there were a lot of people who didn't agree with us being a couple, didn't want us to get married. We had some friends and family that felt that way, but we had, for the most part, I would say that we had a lot of support and love from many of our family members and friends.
I knew what I wanted, and I knew who I wanted, but I just remember feeling the sadness. Yeah, I received a lot of letters telling me not to marry a black man. I received a lot of comments that were hurtful, not to marry a black man. A lot of people said, well, what about your children? Your children, you know, Rachel, I'm okay with you, and you and A will be fine, but what about your children? Your children are gonna have a hard time. I was at the airport, and I was sitting next to this interracial family, and I'm just gonna cry because they sat there and they talked to me about their life and told me that everything was okay. And I know that they were sent from God. It was really a special moment for me, and we are still friends with them. I met them at the airport, and we're still friends with them, and they came for dinner after we were married, and because they were a point of strength for me at a time when I was feeling sad. Amazing is that God will put people in your life and orchestrate it so that we are strengthened when we need it most. You know, we went into this with a lot of prayer, and our children are doing great.
You know, I always believed that it was more important, as we focus on the children, that relationship that we have as parents with them is the most important relationship in terms of how the world influence affects them. And so I was more focused on that. And I knew that, there's always going to be people, no matter who you are, that are going to be, if you want to say people hating on you, or people just that want to put you down, that want to keep you down, that want to discriminate. And so I had dealt with that kind of stuff my whole life, and so I wasn't worried about the kids. I knew that they would be strong and that we could be great examples for them.
We've always taught our kids that people are watching you, and you have a responsibility to act a certain way. I remember I was at a Walmart in Michigan, and a lady came up to me and she said, just so you know, we all watch you every time you come in here. She said, all of us workers talk about it, we all watch you. And I was like, really, why? She said, we just watch you. I said, people are gonna watch you. You are biracial children, you come from a big family, your religious beliefs, you're homeschooled, and people will discriminate against you for many reasons. And it's up to you to walk into a place and be confident and represent God, your family, just represent who you are, and always know that people are watching.
We don't generally have issues with people after they meet us. Nelson Mandela and Oprah kind of made the quote famous, but Marianne Williamson had this quote, and it was about letting your light shine, and it was saying that as you let your light shine, you'll give other people permission to do the same, and it'll make people their fears go away. I would always go up to people, right to them, especially the ones that were looking at me or staring at me, and I'd be like, hey, how you doing? My name's Abe. And I'll introduce myself, and then it'll take people back, especially because they're not expecting that from me. From that point on, they have to realize, like, oh, okay, this guy's not going to let anything stay in darkness. I'm bringing it all to light. The way I look at it, it's my job to be an example, and so I've taken it upon myself to go out there and be the best person that I can be, to show them, hey, this is how people interact. And if they want to hate me after I come up and I'm nice to them and I treat them with respect and kindness, then that's just up to them. And I can't control that. So I just know what I can control, and that's what I control. We've grown and continue to grow as a family, and I love Rachel even more than I did back then. She's a strong woman, very strong woman, to put up with me. She's a strong woman. I am truly grateful to have Rachel in my life, and I know that my life would be completely different without her.
I'm grateful for Abe. I'm grateful for the man that he is. And just as I wrote, he is a very good person. He has lived true to that. I remember watching him when we were dating run to help this lady who was struggling with her groceries in her trunk. And he continues to just be a good person and a great father. And those are the two things that pushed me over that said, this is the man I want. Marriage is hard, but we've chosen to love each other. We've chosen to forgive. We've chosen to support each other, and I'm grateful for the man that he is, that he's a good person, and that I can trust his intentions.
I would say this, our race has never been one of those things that we've struggled with in our marriage. We've never used that as something against each other. If you are an interracial couple and you have a story to share, please send comments below. Thanks for being with us, Sunshine Nation. We appreciate you watching it, and we hope you enjoy the story. And we just want to say thank you for all of your support. Thank you for everything that you do, the comments that you leave, the likes that you give us. If you have anything else that you want to see from us, anything that you want us to talk about, discuss, comment below.
Thank you so much.
And remember, no matter where you are or who you are, spread sunshine.
I love you too.